Okay, guys, we'll start now. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the coding workshop of Quant Quest. This is Samritha, coordinator of the Finance Club at IIT Madras. I hope the competition is progressing well and you're all having fun learning and coding strategies. I believe that all of you have gotten started with the competition already and are somewhat familiar with the platform by now. You might have faced a lot of challenges or have a lot of doubts already on the coding part, and we are organizing this session to help you with all of them. Today we have Mr. Akhil Jain, a software development engineer and at AlgoBulls, joined us to take a session on algorithmic trading strategies. There will be a Q&A session at the end of this workshop also, so stay till the end of the session for complete benefits. So let's get started. Over to you, Akhil.
Hi, good evening, everyone. So let's have a look at the strategies and how we can uh, code a strategy from scratch. Let's get introduced to equity strategies, first of all, and then let's at least talk about the option strategies later. So I believe you are all familiar with the platform a little bit, but in case some of you are having a look for the first time, then this is the doc link. The documentation is here, which is algobooks.github.io/algo trading. I believe Rishabh can share the link here for those for whom this is the first time, right? What this documentation has is all the concepts and the related code snippets required to code a strategy. So let's have a look at the documentation, and I'll also show you the hands-on for the same. Yeah. So this is the documentation page, and you can directly head over to Python build web over here on the left hand side, and here you will see all the concepts required for you to start with any strategy. Now, we already have some ready templates. Some of you must have explored the website, explored the platform. Those ready-made strategies are here, which is strategies. You will get the general strategy guide here, as well as a complete step-by-step walkthrough for all the regular strategies, as well as all the options ones. So you can always have a look at the explanation, the steps done, any diagrams that are accompanying in the page, right? So this is the strategies page. This is the Python build web page. Now, since we want to try a hands-on method, we'll also have to look at the structure of a strategy. So we generally have four methods, which are very important, and two supportive methods, which are required to initialize and start the strategy in a proper manner. If you have a look at this flowchart here, you'll be able to see that we have an exit method here and an accompanying exit method here. Similarly, we have an entry method here and an accompanying entry method here. So what this basically tells you is that whenever you'll code a strategy, you'll have to think in terms of entries and exits as to which instruments are you looking at, how do you want to place the orders for them, which is the entry, and then again, which instruments are you looking at, and how would you like to exit them. So basically, this is what you want to do. With these four methods, two for exit, two for entry, we also have two supportive methods, init and initialize, that you see here at the top. So the init method is used to take any parameters that you would like from outside, and you can also use it to set up any of your data structures. This happens only once as soon as you start your strategy. Let's say you are testing for 5 days, 10 days, and you are gauging the performance of your strategy. So at the start of every day, you would like to clean up your data structures. You would like to perform some cleanup. All of that you should implement in initialize. So when you start a strategy, init is called only once, but initialize will be called at the start of every day. So if you run it for 5 days, then at the start of every day, initialize will be called, and you will be able to clean up your data structures, right? So these two are the supportive methods also. So I'm coming back here to Python build, and I'm going into this one, code from scratch. So this is where we can start coding. Uh, I'll be able to rename the strategy. So let's say I say stochastic crossover. This is the strategy that we are looking at, and I'll be able to just say pass for now because I want to save, and I'll save the strategy. Sorry, I clicked on save and start by mistake. Yes, I click on save. Once that is done, you'll be able to tweak your strategy. You'll be able to add many different parameters here on the right hand pane. Let's do that later. Let's have a look at the structure of our strategy. So as we said, we'll have four methods: two for entry, two for exit, and two supportive methods: init and initialize. Right. So these are those methods. Let me maximize this. Let me quickly get a run through on this. So this is my class. This is the helper class or the parent class which I'll be using. I'm naming my strategy to something. Is this? These are my two methods: init and initialize. As I said before, init will be called only once, and initialize will be called at the start of every day. So you can add your cleanup here. And then we have two methods for entry, and we have two methods for exit. So assume that we are trying to write the strategy, execute the strategy for a couple of instruments. It's not just one, it's multiple instruments. So let's say I have Tata Power, I have Maruti, I have SBI, let's say I have Voltas, and let's say I have Wipro or Infi, something, right? What will happen is the engine which is running in the background will give us those instruments here in the bucket. And we can loop over this bucket and we can decide for any favorable signals that we may have. So let's say for our five instruments, we find favorable signals for entry for only three of them. What we want to do is add those instruments in the first data structure here, which is selected instruments, and give any extra information about those instruments here in the meta. So both of these are lists. Let's say I get favorable signal for Infi and Wipro. So I want to add them here. And let's say I want to buy Infi and sell Wipro, example. So I would like to give that information here. What happens is we return whatever we have selected to the core, and then the core will help us to place the orders. How will it do that? As an example, if this bucket had five instruments, we have selected three of them, we have placed them here. The core will call enter position three times because we have selected three of the instruments. So this instrument, once you will get Infi, once you will get Wipro, and once the third one, whichever you want, let's say Tata Power. So we get those three instruments here, as well as the extra information that we have passed, whether you want to buy, sell, whether we have some custom quantities that we want to pass, anything extra that you give here, we will get it here and we'll be able to place an order, right? So I have a data structure here, which is main order map. I can set it to none here in init, which is going to be called only once. And I can set it to an empty dictionary here, which will be called at the start of every day. So I'm ensuring that my main order data structure is cleaned up at the start of every day. And then I'll use it to store my orders. So this is that line where I say main order map for this particular instrument, and whatever I need to place the order, I will do that here. So these two are for entry. Now, assuming we had 5 to 6 instruments, we got favorable signals for three, then enter position got called three times by the engine. We placed orders for those three instruments. For exit, now we will get only those three instruments in the bucket, because now we will look for opposite favorable signals for exiting those orders. So here we will get all 5 or 6 of them, but in exit we'll get only those ones for which we have entered the position, which means we have placed an order. So that we will get here. We'll do the same thing again. We'll check for a favorable signal, and if it is there, we will add them in the respective data structures. And once that is done, we will send it back to the core. And now the core calls exit position one by one for those instruments where we have a favorable signal, where we have said that we would like to exit the positions for them by placing opposite orders. So if we had placed buy, we would like to place a sell here. If we had placed sell, then we would like to do the opposite here in this case. So this is a general structure of a strategy. A coder or a developer would generally add more methods here to make the code more readable or to manage the code more effectively. So let's say if this is a crossover strategy, then we could add a small method which will help us in the crossover. So we can do that case. Now, for stochastic crossover, we will need to use a package called as tally. And the method that we will call, it will give us two values, and we are going to cross over those two values. If it crosses over, then we are going to try entering the position, and on a reverse crossover, we are going to try to exit that position. This is what we are trying to do. Now, the Talib link, Rishabh will share the link with you. This is the Talib link, the Talib documentation. What I can do is click on all functions and then search for stochastic. So here I see stochastic. I'll increase the font a little bit. Here I see stochastic. Stochastic is under momentum indicators. So if I go into momentum indicators and I search for the same thing again, I should be able to get the implementation. So we are going to use this in our strategy, get the two values, and then we are going to implement a crossover on these two values, and then see whether we get a favorable signal or not. Right? To do this, we will need three things. One is the fast K period, one is the slow K period, and one is the slow D period. The moving average type for slow K and the moving average type for slow D, we can set it to 0 for now. So we will have to either hard code these three values, or we can take them as separate parameters from the configuration pane. Now, let's do that here. So let me go back here, and in my init, I want to take three parameters from outside. What do I mean by outside? I mean this tweak strategy. I'm going to take my three parameters and I'm going to set them up here. In case I want to work with two or three different parameters, I'll come back here, I'll change the value, and I'll rerun my strategy to check the performance. So what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to access this data structure, strategy parameters, with some name that I'm deciding. And using these three names, I'm going to set up those values here on the tweak pane, which is here. We'll come back to this. So in it, I'm using to set up my data structures. In this case, this is the main order map, which I'll be using to handle my orders. And I am taking three parameters here, which is required for the stochastic crossover. Okay. Once this is done, what I'm looking to do is code for the entry. So typically, if I'm taking 4 or 5 instruments, where will I set up the instruments? Here in tweak strategy. So if I add 3 or 4 or 5 instruments, I'm going to get them here in the instruments bucket. And what I want to do is set up a loop which will check if already there is an order standing for them, then I don't want to do anything. I would like to save that compute time in crossover and checking whether there is a crossover and then deciding whether there is a favorable signal or not. I want to avoid all of that if the main order map already has an order for this instrument. Okay. And in case not, then let me write a small method on my own, which will help me to calculate that crossover. Okay. So I'll add my loop here. This is my loop. Let's go over this. This is my loop, instrument in instruments bucket. If the main order is not existing, then I would like to go ahead, right? If the main order is not existing, then I would like to go ahead. Go ahead and do what? Go ahead and do the computation. So I'll create a small method which will help me to get the crossover for this particular instrument. And then if I have a crossover, then I would like to go ahead and do a buy or a sell. Now, a crossover is generally upwards or downwards, or there is no crossover, right? Which means there is no favorable signal. So for an upwards crossover, which is 1, I would like to set them to buy. for a downwards crossover, I would like to set them to sell. If there is no crossover, then that means there is no favorable signal. I don't want to do anything. We would move on to the next instrument in the loop. This is what we would do, right? So I'm checking that condition here. And as per that, in my first list, I'm going to add the instrument. In my second list, I'm going to add extra information. In this case, my extra information is what is the action I want to do? Is it a buy or a sell? So that is what I am doing here. Once this loop is complete, I'm going to return these two structures to the engine. As I said before, what the engine will do now is call enter position for each of them. So let's say you have 5 instruments, you have favorable signals for 3 of them, then this method strategy enter position gets called 3 times. Okay. Now, before we jump on to strategy enter position, let's go back and implement crossover, right? This is a very small method that any developer or any strategist can create on his own. This is just for managing the code better. So this is not a mandatory thing, but you can do it. So from the Talib documentation, I already have the signature of how I should be using stochastic. I do that. I get my two values, and then I use a built-in method, self-utils crossover, and I pass both of them, and then I get my crossover value. What am I doing? I'm going to catch that crossover here, and then basis on whether it's a buy or a sell, I'll go ahead and do that. Where here in strategy enter position. So this is my setup for entry. Now that the setup is done, let me go ahead and actually enter the position. Okay, let me go ahead and actually enter the position. What do we do for entering the position? We will say broker order regular. For whom do we want to enter? This current instrument that is being passed to us by the core. What do we want to do here? Either a buy or a sell, which I've already set while I was selecting that instrument. I'm going to use that same thing. What is the quantity? The quantity is whatever is the lot size of the instrument into the number of lots. Where do we get the number of lots from? From here in tweak strategy. We can set the number of lots. Let's say 2 lots, 3 lots, 4 lots. We can do that. So we'll get that here, set that number of lots into whatever is the lot size of the current instrument. For equity is generally 1, but it can vary based on whether you're doing options or you're doing something else. Now, what we want to do is after placing the order, we are storing it in our own data structure, but we are also returning one copy of the order to the core. This is required where we want the core to handle exits at the end of the market. Sometimes there are strategies where we want to enter a position, but we don't want to exit anything. We want them to get exited at market end. In our case, let's say the market end is at 3:30 or let's say it's at 3:15. So at that time, we want the engine to handle the exits. Whatever is open, whatever is standing, please exit it. If it's a buy, please place a sell. If it's a sell, please place a buy. This is what we want to tell the core. In order to do that, we need to return a copy of the order object to the core, and that is why we have this return statement here. So we are managing it locally, we are managing the order locally, as well as we are passing back one instance to the core also, so that the core can do the cleanup at the market end. So this is what we are doing. Now, as I said before, let's say we have 4 to 5 instruments in the instruments bucket. How will we get 4 or 5 instruments? Because we'll be adding them here in the tweak. Out of those 4 and 5, as an example, let's say we get favorable signals for 3 of them. We pass those 3 from here to the engine. The engine calls enter position for each of them, which means this method will get called thrice because we have selected 3 out of those 5 or 6. For these 3, we place the orders, we maintain them locally in our own data structure, as well as we return one copy to the core for later handling if required. Now, since we placed orders only for 3 out of those 5 or 6, In exit, we get only those three for which we have entered the position, for which we have placed the order. And now we go ahead and use similar loop to the entry. And in now, sorry, in this case, now we will say if the main order exists, then we will do something. In the entry we had done, if the main order does not exist, then let's go through all the compute, let's go through all the crossovers, and then let's do something. Now for exit, we'll do the opposite. If the main order exists, then we will do the rest of the things. Then we will look for a reverse favorable signal, and then we'll place an order. So this is what we are going to do now. Same loop again, same loop again, and now we'll catch the main order. This main order might be an object or it might be none if there's nothing. If the main order is not none, which means it exists, and the order is complete, which means the position is standing. If that is there, then we go ahead with the crossover. This is our own method which we created above. And if there is a crossover, we again add them to our two data structures. Once we add them to our two data structures, we return them to the core. And just like with the entry, the core will call exit position each time for those instruments. So continuing with our previous example, if we have placed orders for three of them, the loop will run three times. Let's say we get crossover only for one of them, which is the reverse crossover basically. For the other two, we don't have any favorable signals, so those orders will continue. In this case, strategy exit position will get called only once because we have a favorable signal for only one, and we have added that particular instrument into this data structure. So we will do that, and then we will try to exit. Now, what we will do here is we either exit the instrument completely or we don't exit at all. So this is the code. I am using the keyword exit while creating my extra information, which is my metadata. And I'm going to use that if the action is exit, I am telling the core, please exit the position. So let me come back here to enter position. I was using order regular here to place an order. We could have done the same to place an opposite order. But the beauty of this is that we can tell the core, this is my order object, please exit the position, which means the core will place a sell if this was a buy order, or it will place a buy if this was a sell order. As simple as that. And I will just set this to none because I no longer want to keep track of this main order. The benefit of doing that, of course, is that in entry, once we check that yes, there is no main order existing, so we will do the crossover, and again we will check for a favorable condition for that instrument. So that is the benefit of setting this to none. Now, only if this instrument has been completely exited now, you return true. There might be strategies where you have the number of lots as 3 or let's say 2, and you exit only one quantity. In that case, you should be returning false because you are telling the engine that there is still work to be done regarding this instrument. Therefore, this exit is not absolute. We still want to continue using this instrument. So in such cases, for such strategies, you will return false till you are sure that there is no more work to be done for this instrument. Can you still continue to use that instrument for the next entry and next exit? Yes, but at least you have to tell the core that for this particular order object, you don't want to do anything else further. If yes, please return true. If you still want to continue using that order object, you have to return false. So uh, this will be with respect to a case by case strategy in case you are doing partial exits. So if you have, let's say, quantity of 3, there is a condition, so you remove one quantity, there is another favorable condition, you remove the second quantity, and then there is a third condition and remove it completely. So at the third instance, you will return true. For the first two instances, you will exit, but you will return false. Needless to say, needless to say, if you have 3 quantities and you are doing partial exits, then you will not call exit position. obviously, because exit position will exit all the three quantities. In that case, you have to set up your own order regular and just place an opposite order. So yes, you will have to do that. Of course, for the third and final exit, you can call exit position and the core will automatically check that only one quantity is remaining and it will remove that. So yes, that is possible. So once this is done, we need to tweak or configure our strategy. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's come here to tweak strategy. This has three parts. One is strategy parameters, which you see here on the bottom. Sorry, four parts. One is strategy parameters. Here we will add our stochastic parameters. Here is the instruments. You can add multiple instruments here. You can add one or more. The segment you will add, as well as you will search for an instrument, let's say Tata Power, Wipro, or something else. You also set up the candle size. Here, right now, the candle size is set to 15 and it is an intraday strategy. Intraday means at market end, the core will take care of the exits in case you want to do that, right? Okay, so I'm changing my candle size to 60 minutes. I'm keeping the mode as intraday. As of now, I'm adding one instrument. Which one should I add? Let's say Tata Power, if it's there, it has to be there. Yeah, so this is the one I'm adding. And I want to add my parameters here, which is fast K, slow K, and slow T, right? So let me add those here. Add new parameters, fast K, slow K, and slow T. That's it. And I'll click on save. Yes, I want to save. This is done. And now I should be able to say save and start, and I should be able to execute this strategy. There might be errors. In case there are errors, we'll be able to see them in the data section here. And in case if it works successfully, in that case also we'll go to the data section and have a look at the logs. Let me try save and start. Let's say from 4th December 9:15. I would like to try it for let's say 10-15 days. So from 4th I would like to let's say 15th till 3:30. So 15 and 30. 30. Okay. There's a PNL tracker function here. In case you reach the desired profit of 10,000 or there's a risk of 10,000 and you want to stop the strategy in either of these cases, then you can use the PNL tracker also. As of now, I'm switching it off. I can have a look at the configuration, the summary. So I'm doing this for Tata Power. I'm doing this for a candle of 60 minutes. It's an intraday strategy with three of my parameters here. Some other settings. Let me say execute. The strategy might stop in case there are errors. In case not, then it should continue. By the time I'll have a look at my parameters. Yes, these are the parameters which I had set, which is fast K, slow K, and slow T. So these are the same three parameters which I have set in tweak. I can look here. The current status is running. So it should get complete in let's say 2 to 3 minutes. And then we should be able to check either if there are any errors or in case if it works, then we can have a look at the different stats, the actual raw logs and everything. You might have been introduced to the need support button here, wherein if there are any specific questions related to the platform or related to some uh, place where you think that you have some doubts, then you can raise support here. The best way to ask for support is the Slack channel, which I guess Rishabh must have introduced to you. But this is another method here where you can raise the support. You can raise a ticket and we'll have a look at it. So let's quickly summarize. These are the four methods. Select for entry, then the enter position. Select for exit, the exit position. And two more methods, init and initialize. Init will be called at the start of the strategy, which is just once, and initialize will be called at the start of every day. So if you backtest for 10 days, then initialize gets called at the start of each of those 10 days, right? After that, we configure whatever we want, our user parameters, which we have added, where we have added our stochastic things. The instrument, today, right now, we have selected only one, which is start of hour. The strategy settings, which is the candle size, and the mode, which is intraday or delivery, and some order settings. Let's say we want orders only to be set to 100 orders. If there are more than 100 orders, we don't want to continue anymore. We can use order settings there, and we can set those. Right. So let's have a look at whether the strategy is complete and whether there are any errors. Yeah, there is a tab somewhere which I'll have to check. What is the line number? Let me try again. If you come back here to the docs and I go into regular strategies and I go into stochastic crossover, then you can get the links here as well as the Jupyter notebooks where you can try for either our Indian exchange, which is NSE, let me increase the font a bit, or you can try for US markets also. This is the whole description for the strategy. You can have a look at this. There are some code snippets here which are generic in nature, given somewhere. Yeah, something like this. You can have a look at them. This is for a regular strategy like EMA or stochastic, which we are trying right now. We have options also, bear call ladder. So you will get some snippets here in the documentation as well as the description. So the documentation is a good place to start or clarify your doubts, if any. And in all other cases, you can come to the Slack channel and have a look. Let me go back. Yeah, this is still going on. So Rishabh, are you there?
Yes, Akhil. Hi.
Yeah. So while I get the strategy to run, would you like to take things forward?
Okay. So, meanwhile, the strategy is running. So, we've been having certain questions and doubts from participants on the Slack channel and also in other chat groups that IIT Madras have. So, of course, I'm not going to take the questions right now, but since I have some time and I'll address those questions. So, one of the recent doubt is about the link from Prathamesh. So, Prathamesh, the links are working fine. It might be a network issue from your end. So, make sure to just check your network and retry the links. It will be working. Okay. And A lot of you have issue regarding the starter Python build plan, which is not being activated on its own. So in case the plans are not auto activated, make sure to go to the pricing section on the left side, and there the plan is already available. You can click on purchase of the plan, and the plan is free, so you don't have to worry about the payment. You can easily all the functionalities and features will be available to you, so there is no issue in that. Another side point, I see a lot of you have not joined the Slack community, and even if you have joined, uh, a lot of you are not using the main channel that is dedicated for IIT Madras. So please make sure to join that channel. All the communications will be there. The recording of the pre-event webinar, the recording of the workshop for market, and this recording will also be shared on that channel along with other communication and the leaderboard that you guys will have. Any further information on the leaderboard and other updates, in case there are any regarding the session, will be shared there. So make sure to join that. Another side point, please ask your doubts. Uh, don't think that you can just uh, use the need support button and get access every time. So for minor doubts, our team is always present there. If you go and check the community, there are people asking questions, and the questions are being answered at priority. So use that, and in case you have to get anything checked in your code, make sure to of course raise a support ticket like Akhil has shown right now, and all your doubts will be clear. We want this competition to be fruitful for you in a very good manner, and your learning should not stop. So make sure you do that. Okay. And I guess the strategy is already complete, so I'll let Akhil take over now.
Yeah, thanks, Rishabh. So, guys, nothing more to add here. Basically, the strategy has worked. You'll be able to use this tab to have a look at errors if they occur, or even the raw logs in case you want to check at whatever were the crossover details and whatever orders have been placed. Of course, the data which is there in the logs is already present here in a much more readable manner. You also have the P&L table below where you can see all the buy and sell orders. You will be also able to download the logs in case you want to use your own skills to extract data from here and form your own opinions about whether the strategy is favorable for you or not. You'll be also be able to go to the analytics section and have a look at the statistics. This is quite detailed. As you keep going down, you'll be able to see a lot of statistics and you'll be able to form your own conclusions as to whether the strategy was beneficial or fruitful or favorable or not. In case it is not, then you should be able to go back here to tweak, and you should be able to tweak your strategy. You should be even be able to change your instruments, add some more instruments or add another instrument. You should be able to change your candle size. Repeating again, you should be able to change your strategy parameters also. So basically, you can use the tweak to get the most out of the strategy that you have coded. This is about an equity strategy, which is stochastic crossover. We also have a video on coding and option strategy. I guess this will be the link to the video will be shared by tomorrow on the Slack channel. Rishabh will do that. Rishabh, please correct me if I'm wrong, but yes, I think it should be shared by tomorrow. Also have a look at that video and see how you can code an option strategy from scratch. So yeah, that's it from my side. Yes, Rishabh, please.
Yes. So, okay, are we done on the coding side? Do you have anything more to add there?
Yes, yes, completed.
Okay, okay. So, guys, feel if you want the recording or a video for options, we'll share that video with you also. It'll probably be shared with you tomorrow. And for now, we'll start with a Q&A session. if any of you have doubts regarding the session that we have, please go ahead and type your questions in the chat box and we'll address all your concerns. Okay. So, Akhil, there's a question from Anand Kumar Arya. The question is, can you please define fast K and slow K periods? I'm new to this.
Right. So there are many indicators available on the market. One of them is about stochastic. We have used stochastic as an example today to show how to code an equity strategy from scratch. Your question is valid, Anand, and you will have to visit the Talib link, which has been shared by Rishabh. In case you want, Rishabh can share it again. There you will get a description of each of the Talib functions, and you should also be able to understand how to get them, how to use them to get a favorable strategy. So yes, please visit the link and try to use a few resources. You can Google a few of them to understand more about stochastic and as well as other indicators that are available on the market.
Okay. Another question is, can we import external Python libraries?
I guess no, whatever is required for creating favorable strategies is already present and imported. You will not be able to use or import any external Python libraries.
Okay. Guys, please type in your questions if you have any more.
Rishabh,
Yes, okay.
so Acha, I guess you have already answered Prathamesh. He said the link was not working.
Yes, yes. The link is working fine. It might be a network issue on Prathamesh's end. So he
Right.
can check that again.
Okay. Got it.
So I'm guessing there's no more questions to be answered. Okay. Okay. So another question is from Neeraj. What about NumPy? Are we not allowed to use it as well?
So Neeraj, NumPy as well as Pandas, I guess you should be able to use them directly. Do give it a try, and in case it doesn't work, reach back out to us. We'll have a look. But as far as I know, NumPy and Pandas are already available for you to use. You can directly use them. Thanks for the confirmation, Prathamesh.
Okay. So I'm expecting there are no more questions. So based on that, we'll wrap up the session, and we are expecting everyone to be available on Slack channel for any queries and questions that you guys have. Everything will be addressed on priority, and you can also raise a support ticket as shown by Akhil. So best of luck everyone for the competition, and I hope you have a great learning experience. And with that, we'll wrap up this session. Thank you for being a great audience. Bye, everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you so much, guys. Thank you all.